Welcome to Thirsty for Information. Glad that you're here. My name's Arlene Schiff. I'm a nurse. I'm an education specialist with Elderwerks. Been in the healthcare field my entire career, and working with seniors and their families and guiding them through the journey of aging for over 20. Today, we're going to be talking about something simple but incredibly powerful, hydration. And while drinking water sounds basic, it's actually probably one of the most overlooked factors in staying healthy as we age. And it's something that we all tell each other and ourselves every day. We got to drink more water, and we're going to talk about why. So my goal today is to give you some practical, easy to use information that you can start using even today. So our objectives today, we are going to cover why water is so important to your body, what dehydration looks like, why it's more common as we age, simple ways to stay hydrated, and hopefully you'll walk away today with some clear and practical strategies and understanding of why this is so important. We're going to start with the big picture, why hydration matters. The human body is 90% water. We're basically cucumbers with anxiety. So why does water matter? Water is essential for life. Every system in your body depends on it. The body just can't function properly without water. And water does support every system in your body. And even a mild dehydration can really make you feel tired and foggy, or even just a little off balance, both literally and figuratively. And as we age, we're actually more vulnerable to dehydration, even if we don't feel thirsty. So again, staying hydrated, it helps us maintain that energy and helps us focus, and definitely helps our overall health. So that's why this topic is so important. Let's talk about some of the facts. Water isn't stored, so it must be replaced every day. The body doesn't have, like a reserve tank for water like it does, unfortunately, for fat. You have to consume water daily to replace what's lost through just normal functions. So the body is really about 50 to 60% water. And most healthy adults are really about 55 to 60% water. So it varies by age and by sex. For example, men typically have a higher percentage than women. Infants can be up to 70% water. And the body loses significant fluids every day just through breathing, through perspiration, through urination. So estimates typically range from 2 to 3 liters, about a half to 0.8 gallons a day daily for healthy adults. And, we want to talk about tap water versus soft drinks. Tap water is not only healthy, but it's extremely cost effective. And according to the EPA, which is the Environmental Protection Agency, tap water costs about 0.002 cents per gallon on average. And at that rate, you can drink thousands of glasses of water for the price of a single 6-pack of soda. So think about that. Water's not only healthy, but a lot cheaper. In the daily needs, you hear things different every day, but it's probably about 6 to 8 cups a day of water, and it varies. While the 8x8 rule, 8 glasses, 8-ounce glasses is a common guideline. And those are the modern recommendations from the National Academies of Sciences, Engineering, and Medicine. But they also do suggest higher amounts for total fluid intake, about 11 and a half cups for women and about 15 and a half cups for men. Again, that's total fluid intake. So the body requires consistent hydration to function, and water plays an important role in joint health, in calorie management, as well as just basic survival. So really by the time you feel thirsty, your body has already lost more than a percentage of its total water. So some research suggests that mild dehydration could be defined as body water loss of 1 to 2%. And research has shown that that could even impair cognitive performance. So important to keep drinking water. And drinking water can help you feel full. It can help you reduce sugary drink intake. So replacing sugary drinks with water reduces your daily calorie and sugar intake, which is more healthy. And drinking water before meals can aid in feeling more full and satiated. The average person could live without food for almost a month, but the body can only survive maybe a few days without water, without any hydration. So again, good hydration supports joint lubrication and comfort. Water's a key component of what we call synovial fluid, and that's the fluid which lubricates joints. And just some information, water on Earth doesn't disappear. It really gets recycled over and over again through what's called the water cycle. And so the water we drink today, you could think has been here really for millions of years. And while we can't really, trace a specific drop, but they say it is possible that the water you're drinking from today existed back when even dinosaurs were on Earth. It's kind of a fun way to think about how connected everything is. So why hydration is more difficult as we age. As we age, and again, this is probably one of the most important things to understand, we don't feel thirst as strongly. And we're taking medications that can increase fluid loss. Mobility and bathroom concerns can then limit our intake. So many people simply don't drink enough, not on purpose, but because their body isn't signaling them. So that's why we need to be so aware of this. And sometimes people, do have mobility challenges and then they fear that frequent urination. So then they're not drinking as much water. So that makes it a very vicious cycle. So let's take a look at how water supports the body and our body systems and all the different organs and what water's effect is. So let's start with the respiratory system. Water helps keep your airways moist as well as your mucus thinner. So then there's less clogging and less chances of pneumonia or your lungs filling up with a lot of mucus. When you're dehydrated, breathing can even feel more difficult, especially if you already have some respiratory conditions. Water assists in flushing these toxins from the lungs. Again, it thins mucus. It can reduce histamine production as well, which leads to more efficient respiratory system. But our lungs really need to be moistened to help facilitate that breathing process. And then we talk about the cardiac system. Water is critical for heart health. Sorry. It supports circulation. And when you're dehydrated, your heart has to work harder, and then your heart can increase. And then in severe cases, it can even affect your blood pressure. So you want to be very aware of this and know that all these different systems are affected so incredibly by the drinking of water. And now we're going to talk about the gastrointestinal system. As we said, water forms the base of saliva. and is present in the mucus, not only in our respiratory system, but also the salivary juices in our digestive systems. And it's important for helping to move food through our digestive tract. It assists our immune system, which is located in our gastrointestinal system. It helps alleviate constipation by moving food through our intestinal tract. So that's why it's extremely important, again, for constipation to drink a lot of water. It helps process toxins from the liver. When we're dehydrated, eh, the body just has a more difficult time of getting rid of waste, and it accumulates in the colon, and then that it creates unhealthy microorganisms, and it weakens our immune system as well. Good hydration helps reduce cavities and tooth decay, and then that water again helps produce that saliva, and that helps keep our mouth and our teeth clean. So water moving through our systems just helps get rid of, bottom line, waste and prevents dehydration. Being adequately hydrated can help your body eliminate toxins and waste materials. Again, very important to your immune system, and it helps to be able to better fight infection. Hydration does help support your immune system as well. So when you're dehydrated, your body just doesn't function as efficiently, and that includes fighting infection. And dehydration can also affect your energy levels as well as your ability to sleep, which makes you less likely to exercise, which again is one more trigger for a weakened immune system. Now let's look at our bones and joints and ligaments and skin. Proper hydration is just the key to, in general, a fit body. It assists in maintaining proper muscle tone. It allows muscles to exercise their natural ability of contracting. And when the water content of the muscle cells is reduced, then the result is stiffness and more pain. And because the muscles then hold your bones in place, stiffness can cause misalignment in your bones and in your bone structure, like the spine. And water, as we know, can plump up the skin and leave it clear and healthy and resilient. I mean, if you know that you've been dehydrated and you look in the mirror the next morning and you see all these crinkles, you'll know why. Drink more water. Just want to give you some percentages of how much water is in each of these different systems. Your brain, 75%, heart, 79%, muscles, 75%. So you get the idea. Your body needs water. Water helps regulate your body temperature as well. It keeps you from overheating. It helps your body stay balanced. Your body works really to keep your temperature stable, and water helps cool you through sweating. And it helps maintain that balance, which is called homeostasis. The thirst mechanism, the areas of the brain that contribute to the sense of thirst are located in the midbrain and the hindbrain, and specifically the hypothalamus. It appears to really play a key role in the regulation of thirst. And the hypothalamus is what we call the thermostat for your body. When you get hot, it signals your body to sweat, and if you get cold, that's what makes you shiver and get goosebumps. And its main job is to maintain body temperature, emotions, hunger, thirst, as well as your circadian rhythms. So again, the brain controls thirst, but as we age, that signal then becomes weaker. So we just can't rely on that feeling of thirst alone. Water helps support a healthy metabolism. It helps you feel full. It also can help replace those higher calorie drinks. So this is about overall health, not just quick fixes and to think that, oh, I'm going to lose weight or gain weight. This is just about really maintaining and supporting your metabolism and keeping you healthy. So how does the human body lose water? So as we said, the body's about 50 to 60% water, give or take a few percentages. And our body is constantly losing fluids throughout the day, whether it's breathing or sweating or urinating. Even if you're not active, you're still losing fluids. And you can see how much, when you're sweating, what you lose, and when you're just breathing in, how many liters do you lose? And your kidneys are just constantly filtering water through. So again, even if you're not active, you're still losing fluids. Um, your hydration needs change. And it's based on your health, your activity, your environment, your medications. There's not really a one size fits all. If you do any activity that makes you sweat, you need to drink extra water to cover that fluid loss. And it's important to drink water before, during, and after a workout. If exercise is intense and lasts more than an hour, sports drinks are good because they can replace the electrolytes and the minerals in your blood that are lost through sweat. But it is healthier to drink water while you're exercising. And when you're done, then they tell you eat that protein, eat a healthy snack, eat some fruits, orange slices, bananas, or even some unsalted nuts. But again, think about your body loses fluid when you have a fever, when you have diarrhea, and if you're vomiting, certain medical conditions like diabetes or heart conditions. If you're older than 50 or you're overweight, you also may have to take extra precautions to increase your fluid intake because of all of these things. Other conditions that might require increased fluid intake are bladder infections or urinary tract infections, kidney stones. Got to think about hot and humid weather that makes you sweat, requires that additional fluid intake. And dehydration also can occur at high altitudes, so you need to remember that as well. But again, there's no one size fits all, but you just need to keep hydrating. I want to play you just this short video here.
Ever felt so thirsty that you are wondering if this is a sign that something is wrong? Have you ever noticed an abnormal drop of your body weight? Feeling weak and lethargic? Perhaps the cause of all of these symptoms and more is dehydration. Dehydration is nothing minor to play with, and if you don't pay attention, it may even threaten your life in extreme cases. In this video, we will discuss the common dehydration symptoms and signs. Dehydration basically occurs when you lose an excess number of water and fluids from your system. There are many things that may cause this. One cause is intense workout, which expels much of your body's fluids through sweat. If fluids are not replaced by drinking water, you can become dehydrated. Another common cause that leads to dehydration is when you are exposed to hot environments. Heat causes, in this case, a rise in internal temperature, and your body has no other option than to sweat to compensate for the heat, which of course expels liquids out of your system. Nausea, vomiting, and diarrhea are also conditions that may cause dehydration, and you are making matters worse if you fail to drink water while nauseous. Many will ask at this point, how do I know if I'm dehydrated? Apart from obviously feeling thirsty, you may experience many different symptoms that show that you are not properly hydrated. A common symptom is memory lapses. Since our brains are made up from 90% water, they are the first organ to show signs of dehydration, which will come in the form of memory lapses, headaches, and possible dizziness. Another sign of dehydration is if you pee on an infrequent basis, or if your pee has a strange color. Yes, it may sound disgusting, but its actual color actually gives you a hint on the status of urine and water in your system. If it's a pale orange or brown color instead of pale yellow, it probably means that you are dehydrated beyond normal levels. Performance-wise, you may notice that you really struggle to make it through the gym or a sport game. Our bodies need water to oxygenate the blood, and if oxygen levels fall, our body's performance and energy will simply suffer. Finally, take a look at your skin's condition. Since our skin is the largest external organ connected to internal circulation of liquids and nutrients, anything we put or don't put into our systems will have a great impact on how our skin looks. If you have noticed that your skin looks dry, rough, patchy, or less stretchy than before, dehydration may be among the top causes. So how do you keep dehydration at bay? By ingesting a good portion of fruits, veggies with a high water content, and low-calorie drinks and plain water without any sugars or fat. Dry and processed junk food as well as alcohol are also a big no-no, as they exaggerate dehydration issues and make your system expel liquids faster. And if you are looking for a natural weight loss solution, I recommend you click the link in the description.
So let's talk a little bit more about this dehydration. It's an excessive loss of water from the body and from the body tissues. And it's often then accompanied by an imbalance of sodium and potassium and chloride and all these other electrolytes. And it causes an imbalance. And it occurs whenever fluids are lost and not adequately replaced, especially when an individual doesn't drink enough fluids. Thank you for sharing this. I see as someone shared with us that they were in the emergency room twice for dehydration, was given fluids through an IV, could barely walk, and everything was foggy. And that's exactly what happens. And here are some signs. Sometimes early signs are easy to miss, but serious dehydration can become very dangerous very quickly, especially in older adults. And in severe cases, it can become life-threatening. So early signs are, dry mouth, that increased thirst. But again, as we get older, we don't have that as early as we used to. You might have a headache. You might feel that your skin is dry. And again, as the video shared, if you take a look at what color your urine is, that will give you a very good indication on how well hydrated you are. The more clear, the more lighter color it is, the more hydrated you are. And if it's a dark yellow, you are on the verge of dehydration. You may be more fatigued. You may be feeling dizziness, more serious signs. If you have little or no urine output, that is a true serious sign of dehydration. If you have significant dizziness or lightheadedness, or your blood pressure has dropped, if it's warm out and you find that you usually perspire and you aren't perspiring, that's a sign. If you're really sluggish, or if you're confused, or if you see, a loved one or a friend that is not responding, call 911 because they could be extremely dehydrated. Sometimes you'd even notice that you don't have tears as well. So there's so many different signs, but these are some of the major ones. So will other fluid intake replace water? Well, let's talk about that. Caffeinated drinks like coffee and soda, they can contribute to your daily fluid intake. When drinking alcoholic beverages, be sure you're drinking plenty of water. If you're having a cocktail, make sure that you have a glass of water next to you. And if you finish off that cocktail, you should make sure that you are finishing off that 8-ounce glass of water as well. You know, Drinks, sports drinks that we take a look at, and energy drinks, they help replace some electrolytes that are lost through perspiration and sometimes sugar that's needed for energy during longer bouts of exercise. Energy drinks, they're different than sports drinks. Energy drinks usually contain a lot of caffeine or stimulants, as well as sugar and other additives. So you need to be careful with those because that's not replacing electrolytes, and that's what you need to be concerned about. All in all, remember that water is best, but other fluids do count. Coffee and tea can contribute to your fluid count, but remember, limit that sugar and limit alcohol as well. So once again, the question is, how much fluid do you need? And you're going to hear different numbers when it comes to hydration. There's 9 and 13 cups, and that can include all fluids throughout the day, not just water. But for most people, the simple and realistic goal is to aim for about 6 to 8 cups of water daily. If you can do, 8 glasses, 8 ounces, that's fabulous. And if you need more, then drink more, depending on what kind of medications you're on and how your health is and what your activity level is. And, any questions, always consult your doctor about, how much fluid you should be drinking. If you have medical conditions that you're taking medications that could come into play with that. But again, one of the easiest ways to check hydration is check your urine color. And again, some people may need to limit fluids, but most importantly, you need to follow your doctor's guidance with all of this. Want to just have this up here so you guys can all take a look at what are the best hydrating foods. You can eat your fluids as well. There's fruits and vegetables and soups, all help with hydration. Look, lettuce is 96% water. Snacking on celery, it's 95% water. Coconut water has a nice taste to it, and it's 95% water. Watermelon is a great fruit to provide fluids. And look at the difference in the vegetables. Cauliflower, 92% water. Cabbage, 92% water. Cucumbers. All these things are great to snack on and have with your meals. And as your proteins go, cottage cheese is 80% water. Apples are 85%. A chicken breast is 65% water, and anything cooked in water like rice and noodles absorbs some of that water, and it helps keeps you hydrated as well. So remember that. So now, how do we do this? How do we increase our water intake? Always keep a bottle of water with you. I've got my bottle as I'm speaking, and I've got another next to that as well. You know what? Creating buddy systems, that helps. I have a friend that when we're trying to have a goal to do something, and especially when it's medical, we always talk about our flu shots every year and who's going to get it first. So that's my buddy system. And we talk about how much water we're drinking and different ways to keep each other accountable and healthy. So create a buddy system with a friend that's going to support you and remind you, did not nag, but remind you and make it a fun, competition. I had 6 glasses today. How many did you have? You can download an app that will remind you to drink water. You can set timers on your phone, or if you want to use post-it notes, use those to remind you. But be persistent, because if you know anything about reinforcing a new habit, it does take about 40 days to then make it a habit when you're starting something new. Drinking water when you wake up in the morning is one of the healthiest things that you can do. Even before you have breakfast, have a glass of water. Have drinks water with meals. Make sure you drink water with your medications. Always have water nearby you. And remember that list of all the different foods that are high in water content. But set reminders, and really, small habits can make a big difference in keeping yourselves hydrated. So if you don't drink water, then we go back to some of the concerns. There's an increased risk of falls. There's a risk of confusion or dizziness, urinary tract infections, constipation, fatigue. These are real life impacts from not drinking enough water. So again, here's some more of these real life effects of dehydration. Did you ever be sitting for a long period of time and you got up fast and you felt a little dizzy? Usually that is from dehydration. When my kids were all in high school, when they were in swimming, I got 3 calls 3 times from each of my kids being sent to the nurse because they swam for an hour and their heart rates were increasing and they were extremely dehydrated. And these were teenagers. So it affected them. And just think about how that affects us as we age. So hydration, hydration, hydration. You don't want to fall. You don't want to get dizzy when you stand up. You want to be able to think clearly, and that all comes from being hydrated. And again, constipation is the worst, but drinking a lot of water helps prevent that. And again, urinary tract infections as well. But these are the kinds of symptoms that we actually see every day, especially when we're talking about older adults. And sometimes dehydration just shows up as confusion or a fall, but not thirst. So those are the things that we really need to remember. I know I sound like a broken record, but it's so important. So again, key takeaways today. Hydration is just essential for overall health. Older adults, the older we get, the higher risk we are for dehydration. Small habits make a big difference, and making it a habit takes about 30 to 40 days to make it a good habit. Drink regularly, even if you're not thirsty. Again, especially when the summer is approaching, remember that. And water is the best choice for hydration. So, excuse the humor here, but why does water never laugh at jokes? Any thoughts? It isn't a fan of dry humor. Sorry, guys. And how do you make holy water? You make sure to boil the hell out of it. Those were my jokes of the day. My kids would say those were like mom jokes. So I appreciate you all being here today and spending your time with us this afternoon. Again, if there's one thing to take away, it's this. As we age, don't wait until you feel thirsty. Hydration is one of the simplest and most powerful things that you can do to support your health. Small changes, like drinking a glass of water in the morning or having that big glass of water with meals, can make a huge difference. And I hope I'm leaving you today feeling a little bit more informed, a little bit more confident in how to stay hydrated and empowered to take that next step and keep that water handy wherever you are. So again, I thank you for being here today and joining us, and I hope to see you again soon.